All right, so you can see these Wilwood brakes come with a 1/8 inch 27 NPT thread here that goes into the caliper. So this is a fitting that will go to 3/16 flared. So that's something that when you go with brakes with this Wilwood, they do not, it doesn't come with a fitting here. You have to get that on your own. So just think about that when you're getting these Wilwood brakes. And as you can see here somehow, let's see if we can get you in here. How I use that fitting there for my parking brake. And you can see where I tied the original setup in. So what I did is I drilled that out to 5/8, and I was able to push that bracket through. Like it would be hooked up to the drum brakes. And then you can see where how I hooked up the original 56 parking brake. I kind of fabricated that stuff to get that center pull down the center of the tunnel. Okay, I'm going to take you over to the passenger side and I'll show you how I tackle this. So you can modify your brake cable to work on these Wilwood brakes. So what I've done so far, you get a better look here at how this is set up. You know, this would slip in through in the bottom of your drum, and then it would attach here to when it pulled through to get your parking brake. So what I'll end up doing is reducing this spring size down, cutting this cable, and here's the part number for the part that I ended up getting, which is this fella here. So I end up drilling this out to the thickness of my cable, which turned out to be like 5/16 on my cable. And then I end up drilling this out 5/16 and then put that set screw in to hold it down. So I'll go through that process and show you how I take care of it, modify it to make it work for my application. So my first dilemma is there's a burr in 3 places here that I have to grind down, and then this ring here will be able to slide over and press against this shoulder here. So I'll get the grinder and I'll knock these 3 little burrs off so we can slide that over. All right, so you can see that I've knocked it off, and this will slide back here to this point now. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and nip the cable off, pull the spring, and then I'll end up drilling this out to 5/8. So this guy right here will be able to slip in there. So I'll go ahead and do all that. Okay, so we've got this drilled out to 5/8 to fit this area that's about 5/8. It's about a 1/4 inch thickness, and from this backstop here to this prong is about a 1/4 inch. So that's what made it work out really well to be able to use the 56 Chevy emergency brake cable. All right, so what I'm going to do now is drill that through and drill this through to fit this cable thickness here. All right, there's the emergency brake lever. And this guy fits on and snaps over. So what I'll do now is I'll get my measurement with my cable here and cut it in about this fashion right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the spring that was on here originally, just because I like doing stuff like that. So what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and get this measured off and get this cut, and I'll show you how I marry all this together. Okay, cable's cut, springs in place, being held up by a little bit of butyl. And I have some butyl wrapped around the center of that guy, which is keeping that centered. And that's the top. And this is where the set screw will go. So what I'm going to end up doing is sliding this guy on. First, I'm going to take a piece of baling wire and I'm going to wrap it around that hook, and I'm going to pull this lever this way and tie it off to hold it in place. And then I can thread this, I can slip this on and then hook it up. All right? So I'm going to give that a whirl. All right, so you can see I have a piece of baling wire wrapped around the hook, going around that altar, or that piece of wood there, tied off, holding the lever down. So okay, well, that's the end of it getting hooked up. See, it worked out pretty well by drilling this out to 5/8, cutting this down, sliding this fella in together, hooking it around that big fella. Nice. Being able to save $200 instead of buying another brake cable. Right on. So one of the other things that I've been working on this week was taking my headlight buckets and reworking them. if you can possibly see that this one's been polished. Well, what I had to do was knock out, dolly some dents that were in these guys. And after taking them out, starting out with 80 grit and working my way all the way to 3000. And then after the 3000, put a little bit of a polish to it. Turned out pretty good. I took the ring off, drilled out the spot welds, took this ring off, got the rust knocked off of it, put an encapsulator, rust encapsulator on it, and then hit it with some black paint, and then went back and tack welded this ring back in place, which this might give you a little bit of help here on what it looks like before I work on it. You know, it's hard to tell if back in the 30s they painted any of this stuff, but this is the condition that it was in when I started refurbing it. You can see that they've riveted these metal rivets in. And you know, for the life of me, I can't tell if they put anything on this to treat it or if it's just the paint has rusted off of it. Who knows? But you can kind of see I probably took a dent out of this one. Yeah. So that's 80 grit right there. So I'll finish this off with 80, work my way to 3000. So now I'll be able to finish these off again, paint them up. But yeah, it's looking really good for, hopefully you can see it had a crease in this one from that Sharpie all the way across. Had a crease there and a couple of dings, and I was able to dolly those guys out and sand it down and polish it. And then I've used some stainless steel cap screws in there. So yeah, it's purdied up pretty nicely. Okay, well, you can see that I've got the steering box in, a little bit of the steering there. Got the motor mounts put in. And I've got my calipers all painted up. Got my brake lines in. Got all my brake lines hooked up. Guess we could go under there. See what we can see as far as the brake stuff. So yeah, I got taken apart and painted. Some new brake lines put on there. Yeah, so we've made some progress this week. So you guys come back and see me. And I appreciate you watching. And we'll see you soon.